In this video, I want to take a little moment to speak about how to use money now that you've become a Christian. In all these videos, we're trying to give a brief introduction to how your beliefs and behaviors should change when you start becoming a Christian. Every single part of your life needs to be under evaluation to see whether or not it's in alignment with the way that God's called you to live, or it's something that needs to be changed and tweaked. Every single one of us has to go through this, and it's a helpful evaluation for every part of our lives. Again, there might be parts where the way we're living is already the way God's called us to, or the way we're living is in contradiction to the way God's called us to live. One of those areas is in money. Money is a huge part of our lives. I think the church gets a bad rap when it talks about money because it maybe only talks about money, or the overwhelming amount that it talks about money is just in relation to giving. And I don't mean, when I say the church, I just don't mean Trinity New Life. I mean the church in America. However, I think we need to actually talk more about money, and we need to talk about more than just giving. We want to talk about all of our finances being used to honor and worship God. And here's how that begins to change. We start to understand that we didn't create money. We were given the ability to create wealth by God. And anything that He entrusts us to financially is something that we are stewarding, we are not owning. And since it's ours to borrow, we want to steward it well. We don't want to just simply take 90% and give back 10%. We give the 10% to the church, but we live with the other 90% like we're lighting it on fire. We want to have every dollar we have be used to honor and worship God. But that doesn't mean that every dollar has to go and be given in sacrifice. It doesn't have to be given as an offering to the church. There should be a portion of our lives and of our finances that is used to be able to give. And the reason we do that is as a reminder that we are not the ones who created wealth in our life, that everything comes from God and we're simply returning it to Him. It reminds us that we can depend on God and we don't have to depend on our money. And it helps to be able to keep greed and selfishness in its right place. But with the rest of our finances that God allows us to steward, we can still use those to honor and worship Him. And the way that we should start doing that is to not just give whatever is left over and keep going the rest of the way. We want to, like we mentioned in the video about time, we want to spend our money according to our values. We don't want to spend our money according to what got onto our budget first. Or we don't want to go at life without a budget, without some semblance of what's coming in and what's coming out. So to be able to start rearranging the way that we use money, again, the most important thing is, have we had a value transformation? Do we think money gives us identity? Money gives us security? Money gives us position and validity? Or do we believe that comes from Jesus? Once we've had that heart change, once we've had that belief change, we can start using money differently. Instead of trying to get friends and impress people, instead of trying to keep up with everybody around us to feel good about ourselves, now we can start using it to serve others, to love others, to be a blessing to others. We don't have to be able to upgrade all the time just to be able to keep up with everybody, because we know that's not what's the most important thing in our lives anymore. My recommendation is to try to get a budget, is to try to mark out all the things that you're spending money on right now. What are all the bills you're committed to? What are all the monthly payments that you're committed to? Look at your bank statement and get an idea of what you're spending money on, how much you're spending on groceries, how much you're going out, how much you're buying clothing or new movies, entertainment, and list all of those things out. Then, on another category, on another list, write down all of those things in order of value and priority. Write down, is your rent number one, or is your giving to God number one? Is your health insurance number 16, or is it number 3? What are your financial values? Place them in that order, and then start writing the amounts that you spend on each of those until you hit 0 in your budget. That way your budget is going to look according to your priorities and values, not according to what everybody else tells you you should have. Sometimes you evaluate and find out that you are actually living on 110% of your income, and you need to make cuts regardless of whether or not you're able to give to God at all. You need to be able to live within your means. You don't want to be living your life into debt. So yes, sometimes that means selling the house, selling the car. Sometimes it means cutting the cable. You don't have premium DVR. You only are able to get one iPhone XS or whatever is the iPhone whenever you're watching this video. And the reason you're able to do that is because you know that's not what makes you valuable. It's not what makes you worthy. It's not what gives you strength and security. So you can now start interacting with money differently because that value is coming from Jesus. Get a sense of what you're spending. Get a sense of what you've committed to financially. Then take those categories and list them in order of your values and see how far your spending goes. You might have to start adjusting or eliminating some areas of spending so that you can be a good steward of your finances. And yes, it is important to have generosity as part of that. If it's the way God's created us to live, to give back to Him and to be generous, if that portion of our lives doesn't exist, it's going to be a continual hindrance to our finances because then all of our finances can't be in alignment with the way God's made us to live. Now, I'm not saying that you need to jump from trying to eliminate debt. I'm in the red every month to now I got to give 10%, and now I'm giving 120% of my income and I'm in more debt. In fact, I'd encourage you, if you're not giving anything, to start, this is just a phrase I use, tipping God. Pick a percentage of your income and be consistent in that and look to see it grow. If you've already picked a particular percentage or dollar amount, believe in faith to see that grow. Even if that means you're at a classic 10%, which is a good training wheels for giving, look to go above and beyond that into generosity. The more you do that, the more seeds you sow in faith, the more opportunity you give for God to bring a harvest in your life. I think it'd be really strange to wait for God to bring a financial harvest in your life from seeds you've never sown. So when it comes to finances, it's not just about giving to God. It's about using every dollar and dime we have to honor Him and worship Him. That comes from spending according to our new kingdom values, not according to the values of the world.